Hey there, today I'll be taking you through how to make your cycles lighting and your cycle scenes look identical in the Eevee Next. I know that sometimes we convert our scenes which are lit in cycles so that maybe we can have a quick preview, sometimes even render through Eevee Next. Eevee Next is quite faster. So right here we have a scene. I got the scene from Blender Kit. Just a really useful add-on where you can get scenes for free and items if you're working on projects you really want to get done fast. So it's a good add-on. I usually use it a lot. So you can get the scene here. So what I'll be showcasing is how we can take a scene like this, which is already lit in cycles, and transform it into something that looks identical in Eevee Next. And switching over to Eevee, most of the times you find renders are not what they seem. On the left, I have the cycles setup. You can see that by how a bit slower it renders. But when we switch to Eevee Next here on the right, this is the Eevee Next version. You can see that it looks off. Something about the lighting doesn't really work. And so we want to make sure that it looks identical. Some of the reasons this happens is because Eevee Render does its things a bit different. It's a real-time engine and it cuts its corners to make things look as appealing in a shorter amount of time while using also lesser resources. But in this particular scene, you can see we just have one aerial light. But for some reason, as you can see in the cycles version, the lights don't appear the same way. You want to make sure that you have ray tracing on. In the world settings, you can turn on shadow. But what you really need to do to bring the change is to change this aerial light into something else, into a spotlight. You can see in the cycles version, the area light looks more like a spotlight used. It looks more like a spotlight. The reason why it looks more like a spotlight is because when you go to cycles and go to the light setup, you can see is something very interesting which lacks on the other side. It's the beam shape and the spread of the beam shape. When you go to Eevee Next, this actually doesn't exist. And so this is what brings the difference. We have to figure out a way to make this area light act like the one in cycles. And the only way I've found so far is changing this into a spotlight. That's the best solution I've found so far. But what I like to do is duplicate the area light so that we can just keep the other one. Just duplicate the area light. Now we can turn that off, turn it into a spotlight. And now you can see we're kind of getting a similar effect. So you want to turn up the brightness, the power, and then what we'll do to make this soft fall off is play with a new beam shape. The beam shape exists only in the spotlight but not in the area light when it comes to Eevee Next. So we can increase that a bit and then mess a bit with the blend. Also, the radius makes the shadows a bit softer. As you can see, the shadows are super soft, and we can crank this up to maybe something like 5,000. Yes, now you can see we are kind of getting there. More like it. So the trick for me, what I've found to really work is to change the light to a different kind of light. Because with the area light, the same options found in the cycles render are not found in the Eevee Next render. And so to get the same kind of effect or the same kind of lighting, it's best that you switch that to an area light. You can still increase the size a bit. Yes, and the radius a bit. Now when you look at this, the lighting is so much more identical than what we had earlier. And so the trick is knowing that area lights don't work the same in Eevee Next. And that's one trick you can use. I also noticed that the world looks a bit darker here in Cycles, so we can take that down just a bit like that, and now we have something that looks more or less the same to the Cycles version. So if you put them side to side, on your left we have the Cycles version, on your right we have the Eevee Next version. Just as simple as that. There are more settings you can get into, figure out more things. Something else you can also do is to make a separate collection. If you want to keep your lighting for both Eevee Next and also Cycles, you can create a separate collection where you can drag your Eevee lights. We'll name that your Cycles light, we'll name that Cycles. And we can also have another one for the Eevee Next. So this can be the Eevee lighting. So that way you can switch back and forth depending with the renderer you want to use at that specific moment. Using Eevee, just switch to that. What you have to do is put all your lights into that same collection. And so you can move back and forth. Eevee is really good for previewing your renders right before you do the final render. It's amazing. I personally use Eevee Next for almost all my projects. Eevee Next has been a game changer. And so it's as basic as that. You can work with different scenes, figure out the values. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.